Looks like we got Jagger's
got that kind of party going.
Being attacked by a dog. I don't know which one.
It's called being fashionably late.
Yes, fashionably late. I work in the doghouse. That's what I call my office because I share it with my dogs and my cat. Well, Ash, or what you know as DJ Kitty. Welcome, folks.
The kitty.
It is Dynasty Hour, episode 5. I am your co-host, Jagger May. You can find me at Fantasy Blue Chip. And with me is host of This Guy Sucks, Chuck Bass. And he's here to save our lineups, Fantasy Jesus, Justin Herrera. And as always, he does all the dirty work that I am garbage at, our in-house producer and other co-host, Mr. Mallard, host of Divots and Pivots, Andrew LeDuc. Make sure to hit the like, subscribe. And folks, good news, we're a podcast now. We're real. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple. I need you to go on there. I need you to give us a review and 5 stars. We will give you nothing. No t-shirts. I can give you a code that we'll give you later in the promos, but go and do that. It really helps us. Much love. So without further ado, how are we doing, gents? Justin, you've been like silent death on here. Like you came on pre-show and he's just like game face. Like he's a fucking professional, guys. He comes on here, says nothing. And then as soon as Andrew hits action, he's ready to go. I want you to hit first point on here. News and nonsense. Devontae Adams on the Raiders front office. We don't see eye to eye on what we think is best for us right now. I'm going to have to buy into this and try to be as optimistic as possible. It's not what I expected to happen, but it's something that's the reality now. All right, listen, folks. This guy just had like I'm not sure 100%. Again, we got to have that in-house producer. Actually, a guy volunteered, so we may have that soon. But I'm pretty sure he had like an all-pro season again. Like he was Devontae Adams again. Like I think in the same interview he flexed about being one of the like QB proof, which is it's objectively fact. He's good at football, and he says after the draft, I don't know what we're doing, and I don't believe in it. We kind of talked about this already. We think about Josh McDaniels. Justin, I need you to give him the gospel, sir.
Well, I'll be your Jamie tonight. He did 100 receptions, 1,500 yards, and 14 touchdowns. Just to give you perspective on how great he was last year, he did that on 20 fewer receptions than his last year with Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, I mean, he's foolproof. He's the best wide receiver in the game for a reason. I don't care what you want to talk about fantasy and all that type of stuff. Yep. If you have to have somebody go up there and win you a game, it's all about Devontae Adams. You know what? To be honest with you, he's calling out an organization that needs to be called out. Like they keep on doing these shitty, ridiculous moves. And, you know, I read the article that you're just reading too. Like they talked about it last year. It was like, it seemed like a win now mode. They gave people extensions. They went out and they got Chandler Jones and they tried to do this and they tried to do that. And then they went out and had like, I think 6 wins. Like, I'm sorry. That's not acceptable. And that should a little bit should fall back on the coach rather than what Derek Carr was doing. I've honestly never been a fan of McDaniels. I think he is kind of like Bill O'Brien. He's better set as a coordinator. He's somebody who maybe should have never gotten a second chance. You're going to win more rings as Bill Belichick's guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Testify.
No.
Testify. And like, as a Patriots fan, everything you said, I think he's a great offensive coordinator. I think he's a great. But every time the prodigal son leaves, all of them are prodigal sons. Anytime they leave the hen house or they leave outside their station, it goes terribly. And then I don't know about you, Andrew. I'll serve this to you because you're the other Pats fan here in just a minute. But for me, it really sticks out that he's talking about the offense specifically, because I actually thought the offense worked, and I think the defense is why they lost a lot of games. Like I think Derek Carr can only take you so far, and your defense isn't good. But when Davante Adams pretty much says, "Hey, I'm going to get you regardless 1,500 yards and 10 touchdowns," that's what I do. And I don't think this offense could work. Like basically he said, I can do most of the receiving work and I have questions. And then Josh Jacobs just had a career year. Like it just, I think the offense is like, it's working, and that he has questions. And after I dug into the stats a little bit, just kind of zooting around the internet and perusing, everything looks good statistically. But when you think about the Raiders, it's like, So, Andrew, what do you think about the Raiders as a whole? Davante Adams. I mean, you got to think he's right. No, I guess we'll just get to the meat of it. Do you think Josh McDaniels can turn this ship around? Do you think this is the year that things are going to get fired, or he's going to go come crawling back, but with his tail between his legs, with no offensive coordinator job because Billy O.B. is over at the Pats already, and he can't coach, so.
I think if he's going to do it, it's going to be this year. There's no excuses for him not to do it because, look, they only, as far as even playing into Davante Adams' game style even more, they added Jacoby Myers, and they're going to have a healthy Hunter Renfrow back. That's all three of them are fantastic route runners who should, just from the way they run their routes, and if they get creative with their route patterns, should be able to drive defensive backs insane with the way they're going to be moving around the field. So someone's going to be open. And like you said, Josh Jacobs, Zamir White still is young and up and coming, so he's got weapons on this team as a coach where there's no excuse. If they fail again, it is on him because these guys are going to produce again. They should produce again. So there's no more excuses for me on McDaniels. This is his last chance in my eyes.
Yeah, it's like after year two, bro, like think about what the NBA just did to Doc Rivers and Monty Williams. Monty Williams didn't even really do anything. I'm not going to get in the NBA, but they're like, hey, you should have done better. It's not good enough. Go find another job. like that's what they did. Like they're like, good job, bro. Not good enough.
Yeah,
so
finals 2 years ago meant nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It meant nothing. So Chuck, I'll finish with you, and then I'm going to circle back to talk about the fantasy implications, because this is just talking about them as an organization. We haven't even talked about how we should respond to this, because out of all the offseason news, this is actually like real fantasy implications out of this. So I'll ask you on the we'll stick to the football perspective on this. Yeah. What do you think saves Josh McDaniels? What's the over-under record? Is it playoffs and he's fine at least? Or is it like they had 6 games, so is it 10 and they missed playoffs?
I would say that they have to float around 500. He's a sneaky bitch. And I've been looking at this. I've been thinking about it. This guy did the ultimate move. He traded for Tebow in Denver, which completely gave him a pass. He gets to blame everything on the quarterback, even though he handpicked him. So now he gets his second run and he gets a little bit more leeway. Honestly, Davante Adams had everything to complain about in Green Bay. And he avoided the wide receiver stereotype of being a diva, and he packed all that shit in, and he was the best wide receiver in the league for this entire stretch there. Guy comes to Las Vegas. It's so perfect that he comes to Las Vegas. He's hot at a blackjack table last year. He's killing it. He's on a roll. And what do? They bring in the fucking cooler dealer. They bring in Jimmy Garoppolo, and they completely neuter his game. It just doesn't make any sense to me. The Raiders got a pass last year because the Broncos were an absolute pile of shit and distracted everybody from what was going on in Vegas. The Chargers were a pretty public mess as well. I think anybody who's paying attention knows that there's a lot riding on this Raiders season, and it's going to be brutal. I think I fear for Davante. I fear for his fantasy ceiling. I fear for his role in the offense, and what Jimmy's capable of doing doesn't quite suit what Davante's. I mean, Davante can make anybody look amazing, but we're talking about a receiver who's pushing it in age. It just sucks all the way around.
Yeah, I agree 1,000%. So, Justin, we'll come back to you because, like, you're thinking the same thing I got. Like, we're thinking about the future now. Like, we're going to talk about the dynasty implications and roster Raiders assets that we have. I want to talk about Zamir White. I liked Zamir White enough pre-draft to roster him, but it wasn't one where I was willing to die on or I'm trading or being aggressive for during that time. What do you think about Zamir White going forward after hearing this news? And then I guess we'll talk about the receivers because that's a whole other thing. But let's stick with the backfield. We have Josh Jacobs, Zamir White, and I don't care. I don't even know who's RB3.
So I'm just gonna say this. Anytime somebody comes into the league with 3 ACL surgeries, I immediately go, yeah, that's a hard pass. Unless you are some super freak, like Adrian Peterson, where you have just destroyed the odds, I'm not really on board with it. I mean, I like Zamir White. His highlight reel is through the roof. He looks like the type of guy that would mock compared on the high level to like Ezekiel Elliott, but like his touchdown potential, I think, is like kind of like there. But at the end of the day, I can't get behind somebody who's had 3 ACL surgeries. That's way too tough. It just doesn't seem like it's going to be something other than a backup role. And then you put on top of that, Josh Jacobs has like 5,000 carries in his like 23-year-old life with the Raiders, and he's never really, like, knock on wood, suffered anything that kept him out for more than 2 games. Like, that is durability right there, guys. I don't care what anybody says. Like, that is the definition of durability right there. And he just had his best season. So feed him the ball all day long. Zamir White, if you have him, I don't know, trade him for a 4th or something. Try and roll your dice on the table.
Exactly. If you could get a 4th, that's a win because, like let's give an example. And only in one roster, I think I have him in like 3 leagues because it's a taxi squad, and I forget he's there. So I looked at it, and I had to cut him today. Like he didn't make the cut after rookie draft today, and it's because like I would rather have Sean Tucker in the 4th. I'd rather have Dwayne McBride in the 4th than Zamir White. So we'll do another segment on roster garbage that you should clean out. Like actually we spitball segments all the time. Here's one right there. Zamir White just re-rolled. Let's just move on. So we'll talk about the receivers in here. Again, we have Davante Adams. I think Justin's right. He's wide receiver 1. Not talking about fantasy. As an NFL, he is the best wide receiver in the NFL. In a league with Justin Jefferson, I think he is the best wide receiver in the NFL. So let's just put that in our pockets. And then you go and you pay Jacoby Myers. I think it's a modest deal, and I don't hate this. What I don't like is that who else did he bring in? He brought in the rest of the Patriots garbage on this team. Yeah. And then I think Michael Mayer is a good asset to own. We'll talk about that later. Chuck, I'll let you have that one. Andrew, what are you doing with the receivers? Like Jacoby Myers, do you like him? I put out a TikTok about Hunter Renfrow. Hunter Renfrow's donezo. I think Hunter Renfrow, I had to look at him on a roster, and honest to God, if it wasn't for me thinking that other people think he had value, I would cut him. I would cut him off my team right now. I would rather have Michael Wilson, who's going in the 3rd round of rookie drafts right now for the Cardinals. Where are you at now with the rest of the not Davante Adams people?
Yeah, look, to me, Myers is definitely fantasy-wise the number 2 guy to own on this team. But what makes me nervous here is 2 things about. I think Adams is going to get his. We saw that. I'm not worried about Adams one bit from a fantasy standpoint. What worries me about sustaining Jacoby Myers in fantasy is I think Renfrow will have 1, 2, maybe 3 games that surprises and like we'll just kind of screw Jacoby Myers for that week, come out of nowhere kind of deal. And Jimmy Garoppolo. If Jimmy Garoppolo gets hurt like he always gets hurt, who's going to be throwing the passes after that? Because right now, I don't think there is another quarterback on that depth chart at the moment. So that's what worries me. No matter what Davante Adams is going to get his, Josh Jacobs is going to get receptions out of the backfield like we saw last year because that's McDaniel's style. Myers and Renfrow are going to be the question marks all year. That's going to be a dangerous game to play, I think.
Here's a chance for me to be a nerdy film grinder that I am. Aiden McConnell is the perfect Patriots wide receiver. He is pretty good. He is not good at anything. He's pretty good at all the things. He's smart processor, can make every throw, and they drafted him in the 5th round. Is that a shit pick? Yes, because I don't know. You should have, if you're going to get a quarterback, I would have rather you, if you want a bad quarterback that's like not good at some things, I'd rather you've reached for Will Levis in like the 2nd round. If you're going to do that, do it better. Then you're going to do it. But Aiden McConnell's someone, I haven't drafted him because I build my rosters better than that. But let's say that you're bad at Dynasty, you want to get good, and you want to acquire value. I think Aiden McConnell is someone to draft because, like you said, I have never seen Jimmy G finish the season.
Get through half the season, let alone.
Yeah, exactly. In the season that Tom Brady got hurt, and he stepped in and balled out, he got hurt. And then Jacoby Brissett came in. I don't know if you guys remember that. So, like, Aiden McConnell. Aiden McConnell,
I remember that.
Yeah, is a stash. Is he good? No. But I'm saying he's Bailey Zappi, so you could turn him into like a 3rd rounder and sucker someone in season. But I'm gonna move on. That's just a little nugget because we have time. Chuck, we'll go to you. How about Michael Mayer? Personally, I like drafting Michael Mayer. I've been in almost 13 rookie drafts, real one, and I haven't drafted him because I'd rather have Sam Laporte and other people later. And then when it gets time for me to draft him, I get sniped. Do you like Michael Mayer for Dynasty? Redraft, you shouldn't be drafting any of these rookies. It's a bad idea. It's just a bad idea.
I mean, I absolutely love the pick. Not only do I love the player, I love the scheme that he's going to. It's really I'm more excited about him long-term than I am anybody there. It's pretty clear that what they're going to do is instead of trying to push the ball down the field on 1st and 2nd down, they're going to try and set up a short 3rd down distance, which I hate personally, but it's terrific for the kind of smart player that Maher is. His poise and his polish coming out of school. I mean, I think he's going to be an immediate impact. They're obviously looking for their next Gronk. And while I don't trust the coaching staff in any meaningful way, I trust that I love it for a player who is getting that kind of attention and put on a pedestal that early. I mean, I think this is a day 1 smash. I'm really excited for him.
Yeah, like the page. If you think about coaching trees, how we think about the 49ers or specifically Kyle Shanahan coaching tree of running backs, that's the Patriots system with tight ends. And then, excuse me, Jimmy Garoppolo. The one thing he could do is get the ball to George Kittle. That's like he's like, hell yeah, I could check down, go. like that's the one thing he could do. Like Justin, again, he's a Niners fan. He could probably attest to that more than us. But like, I like Michael Mayer, and I think when another coach comes in, Michael Mayer can be somebody because you remember that Darren Waller's gone, Foster Moreau got like cancer, and I think he just kicked cancer's ass or something like that, and he's getting signed by the Saints. That's actually news.
He did. He's doing great. Yeah,
he's doing great. So that's like good for him. Pick up Foster Moreau; it costs nothing. But I like this is the one off. This is the one piece I think is a good future asset, like going forward. Like you said, like this is the only one I'm thinking past like a redraft season. So we'll let it die. Just before you do, I just want to say, if you're talking about, if you think Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be the quarterback for the next 2 years of this team, you're talking about, and what the Raiders did, which I love, is they drafted a tight end that is going to be, it can do everything well. His athleticism is the only knock, but he's so crafty. He's so great at getting open, which is perfect when you have a quarterback that is deathly afraid to take risks, which is going to be the entire offense. And which is why it sucks for Devontae, who wanted to come here and get bombs from Derek Carr this whole time. That whole, everything's changing there. And it's going to start benefiting these guys that are, Devontae is going to, all the coverage is going to shift to him. And if you have a tight end that knows what the fuck he's doing, Jimmy Garoppolo has been used to that for 5 years now. That's going to be absolutely automatic.
Yeah, I got 1 point to add on to that real quick. It'll be real quick. You said Hunter Renfrow might be dead. Just because Jimmy Garoppolo's processing is very like on script, and if something doesn't go right, he tries to quickly get out of it. I would say Hunter Renfrow actually benefits from that because he's really quick off his breaks. He's got great separation, and he'll be like 5 yards away from Jimmy Garoppolo. So he acts like another tight end as far as like the passing game goes. So that's the only reason. And otherwise, I mean, he's an elite slot receiver. And what do we know about the Patriot system? Wes Welker, Julian Edelman, all these guys that have been elite slot receivers. They like to run the short game, and they like to kind of get guys in the space. So I don't know if he's completely dead. And even if he was dead and traded, I'd still put him on my team because if he gets traded to a better situation, that's all the better.
You think he's an elite slot receiver?
Yes.
I think he's a slot receiver.
No, I think he's in.
Yeah.
I mean, for fantasy, he's probably not. But.
Yeah. We'll lump the rookie news together because, like, I got to keep going on this. I got because there's two nuggets there that I'd like to hit on, and one is Hunter Renfrow of value now? Because, like, let's think about the discourse. Like we're the discourse. I've been saying Hunter Renfrow's dead for like weeks now. As soon as Jacoby Myers went there, I think he's dead. And the reason why, like, here's because I guess it's the same nugget is who is Wes Welker? Because like Jacoby Myers was Wes Welker for like that Julian Edelman Wes Welker row after Edelman left, and now you have your guy there. Where does that leave Hunter Renfrow? Like to me, it's seeing where they fit. Because if Jacoby Myers wasn't there, I'd be all in on Renfrow essentially. So that's where I'm at. Is like I'm thinking about volume and who's going to be that guy. I just don't see this as an offense where they're going to be throwing out 3 and 4 wide receiver sets and slinging it, you know.
Did you think that Julian Edelman was an elite slot receiver?
Yes.
I think he got elite production.
You thought he would?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Because what makes a good slot receiver is he's quick. Like, you don't have to be fast. You have to be quick. And then he understands getting open in a zone. And that's crucial because if you can consistently get open and sit in a zone, then you do what we were talking about. You're the safety blanket for your quarterback. They know that you're going to be there. They know where you're going to be at on time, and they're going to serve it to you. Do you think he wasn't an elite slot?
I think that he was in an elite situation.
Okay. We can't talk about
me.
the past.
That's me.
Can't talk about the past.
Who's Mr. Negative?
Coming up next.
Okay.
Awful quiet for a Pats fan, Andrew.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was trying to actually see because you mentioned asking the question, is Hunter Renfrow a value? And I actually did a best ball draft earlier, and I was kind of curious where he went. He went pick 175 overall. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, he went pick 175 overall in best ball.
Yeah.
So I actually
what round was that?
Foreshadowing.
I wish I could do my math a little bit faster for you there.
Okay.
I'm sure.
Like, talk to me like this isn't after work.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
I can tell you he's the 6th bench player on this team that took him.
Okay, that is so he's like a late round. That doesn't even matter. Yeah. That's free. That does.
That's why because I do think he's value because I do tend to agree more with Justin than with you, Jagger, on Renfrow this year.
Okay, so like he's dead, but he's like he's a free zombie now, is what we're saying. That
he's one of those zombies that can actually run and climb stuff.
Yeah, exactly. He's like those World War Z zombies.
Yeah.
Andrew, tell me a couple people that went around him, and we'll see if you guys would want any of those guys.
I just closed it. Son of a bitch.
Oh no, my phone just died.
Keep talking while I find it again.
Oh, he's got to find it because apparently he's. All right, we'll come back. We'll come back to that. We'll foreshadow now. Like, I'll read out some news now. Like I said, we're gonna lump it together. 3 rookies. This is me slightly victory lapping because 3 rookies. I said we're going to be good regardless of situation. Anthony Richardson, Sam Laporta, Tank Bigsby. They're impressing in rookie camps already. When it's he's got an answer. You got not.
I did find it. Sorry, and I read this wrong. He actually went pick 161 overall. His rank was 175. But the guys that went around him right before him was Chris Stroud, Alec Pierce, and Jimmy Garoppolo, and then right after him were Raheem Mostert, DJ Chark, and Mayer as well.
I'd rather
sounds
have
about
all
right.
those assets over him.
Yeah,
I'd
yeah.
rather have all those assets.
Sounds about right.
And I'd say that these only
Not
other two
DJ
receivers
Chark.
that went after him were in that same round, which was round 14, was Van Jefferson and Downs.
Oh, okay, that was going to be my question because we definitely I could talk. This is almost more about like when we talk about startups and then more towards redraft season starts, but almost in those late rounds, I'm taking every rookie wide receiver because they are more likely to hit than a veteran at that round. Like I was like, where's Josh Downs and Jaden Reed going? Because I'm probably taking them every time. But we'll save that. Like Chuck said, like foreshadowing. We can talk about underdog and best ball later. Like that's going to be a whole episode. So we'll shove through. And like I talked about it, I brought this up a little bit ahead of time, but Anthony Richardson, Sam Laporta, and Tank Bigsby, they're balling out and doing well in camp. Specifically, Anthony Richardson, like I've been saying, the coaching staff said that he is already better than what they thought that he's supposed to be, and he's less of a project than the consensus thought. And unlike what the Panthers are doing, which they traded their whole future to get Bryce Young, and they said that Anthony Dalton is going to get the start. That I won't even break into that. They're saying that Anthony Richardson is basically QB1 and Gardner Minshew's there. So Justin, we'll start with you again. How does this make you feel? Does rookie camp narratives matter to you at all?
It's 50-50. I mean, everybody looks good in rookie camps. I mean, obviously there are always those good and bad sheets, but I mean, you need to put some pads on and see what they have. I'm happy to hear that Shane Steichen likes the guy that he got, because obviously Shane Steichen has become like kind of like a QB whiz around the league. So that gives me like that backs me up. I'm like, oh yeah, I was glad I took him in like 6 of my startup leagues. But you know, as far as Sam Laporta goes, I don't know. I mean, Detroit didn't really use the tight end too much last year. TJ Hawkinson had to go somewhere else to get good. And then Tank Bigsby, for what it's worth, I mean, he can still get the touchdowns, but I don't see he's going to take too much of Travis Etienne's stuff. But I don't know. I'm ready for training camp. Training camp is really when you find out who's doing really good. They put on the pads, they start going out there, and people start going and talking to these reporters and saying, you know what? Sam Laporta over there, he's beating the linebackers, he's beating the safeties, all of that. So that's when I'm really like getting in tune with it. Rookie minicamp just kind of seems like a formality to me.
Yeah, and I think it matters more when they're not good. That's what I think around it, because you're going to hear coach speak that like you hear the usual, like, yeah, he's doing everything that we want him to do, or he's progressing along fine. Like we can go on like an entire episode of just coach speak, but when they're actually doing bad, not Jamar Chase, I have a couple of drops in camp. I mean, like actually this player's doing bad that matters. I guess we can hint a little.
If you don't mind me popping in just real quick, the most important thing is that they're not doing that stupid thing where it's like, we're going to let some veteran have the reins and Anthony Richardson can work his way in and we're going to ease him in. That is neutered Justin Fields, Trey Lance, Tua, Daniel Jones, even going back. Like they know he's the guy, and they're not the NFL has made it very clear that if you're the guy, you're going to get the keys early, and all the other great quarterbacks have succeeded early. And I don't think it's a player thing. I think it's an organizational thing. Some guys approach this very old school, and you don't need to do that shit anymore. Anthony Richardson is going to benefit tremendously from, here are the fucking keys, and there is no speed limit. Let's go. And that's all that I think really matters as we progress through this offseason.
Yeah, that was a Patrick Mahomes effect.
And like
everybody thought Patrick Mahomes needed that year to season up, and then now everybody's like, "Oh, he needs a year to season
Patrick
up."
Mahomes would have broken the same points record for fantasy quarterbacks if he started his rookie year than if he did in 2018. I swear by it. These guys, they're generational. They're generational.
And he might have another Super Bowl by now too.
Oh yeah, for sure. And to bounce off both of your guys' point. And I like Andrew asked you if you agree with me on here that I think now we've noticed that it's more important to get these guys out there early and let them fail early. So let's say like let's think about where we are with with the Packers guy.
Jordan Love.
I've
Jordan
almost
Love.
forgotten his Jordan Love. Yeah,
No,
I almost forgot
I would
his
like to make a
name.
motion.
It's been
I'd
so
like to make a motion to officially refer to him as the Packers guy for the rest of this podcast.
Oh, okay. So the Packers guy, we've waited like 4 years for him. If he's not good, I think it matters a little bit. The fan base, everyone is going to collectively want them to move on. It almost feels better. Like with Zach Wilson, when he did bad, we were still thinking, man, maybe he needed that year to like really fuck up. And then we were ready. Then second year, we were like, okay, he's just bad. But we were willing to wait a whole year.
Yeah. But that we
So,
all
like,
knew that the Jets were doing the right thing by throwing him out there,
throwing him in there. Yeah.
and investing. Yeah. Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, like that's the track record. Trevor Lawrence, that's the path now. And if you're taking a quarterback in the top 10, 15, 20, whatever it is, this is a guy who needs to be on the field ASAP. They're capable of doing it.
And it's like you said, you nailed it. Like Trevor Lawrence, that's an actual real example. He looked like dog shit. And it's not even his fault, all of it. And he still kind of looked bad at times this year. But it's because we saw the flashes and it consistently got better. We're like I saw him like on a boot, spin around a guy and then throw a 50-yard bomb on a dime. And I'm like, there's Trevor Lawrence. I'm like, there he is. And then you're willing to like bet on it. You're like, okay, he still got it. He just needs to figure it out. So like Anthony Richardson, he's probably going to look awful, really bad at times. And then you're going to get on Twitter and people are going to be like, told you Anthony Richardson was a running back, should have moved to tight end. And that's when you buy him. Same thing with like Justin Fields. We see these guys look really bad at times, and then those plays pop. And then about year 3, you need to see the consistency. So I'm all in. Sam Laporta, to give you guys some stats on him, he should be doing well because, like we said, it's rookie minicamp. You want their top rookie picks to look better than their not top rookie picks. To give it an example. So, like, which you want that to happen.
Your 6th rounder looks as good as your 3rd rounder or your 1st rounder. You got some problems there, but
exactly. So, like, as someone who's been, I say like top of the one of the top guys pushing Sam Laporta, only Rob Gronkowski has ever averaged like 800 yards and 10 touchdowns. Basically, a significant fantasy asset. Rob Gronkowski has been the only significant fantasy asset for a 3-year window. So Sam Laporta is going to be sitting around for about 2 years. And then he's going to, and like we talked about, you see flashes. Like George Kittle flashed early. All these guys, they flashed early. They weren't good week to week, but they flashed early. So these are the things we need to see. Of course. Like Tank Bigsby. I don't know. It's confirmation bias to me, and I acknowledge that. I guess to be the real acknowledge how good it is. Are you guys drafting Tank Bigsby in like puppy bowls or like redrafts? Is Tank Bigsby going to be a guy you're going to roster?
Not redraft.
No, not a redraft.
Yeah. Yes, and fucking yes.
I will. I will because I'm a zero RB guy. I'm a zero RB guy. So Tank Bigsby. Like he's going to be my RB2 on a lot of redraft teams, but we're going to talk game 3 in a little bit. So
Please.
And actually we'll just go ahead. We'll go ahead and pay some bills and we'll get right into the game theory, chasing running back handcuffs. Go ahead and hit the roll.
Peak Underdog Fantasy is here to save your post-fantasy football season blues. The easiest place to play and win with the Underdog Fantasy app. Get up to 20 times your money in a single night with our Pick'em contests. Grab some insurance when setting your picks and win even when one pick fails. Go online now and use the promo code TSS to double your deposit up to $100. Sit gingerbread, good girl.
Good girl. Remember, everybody, it's Puppy Bowl season. It's Best Ball Mania. use code TSS. We'll match up to $100, and that's how we get paid. So I need you guys to do it. All right. So we're gonna talk game theory, chasing running back handcuffs. We just talked about Tank Bigsby. And we'll talk a little bit about roster construction, but specifically from a dynasty aspect where you have time and you can build a whole roster and you're not playing like 1 year at a time. And that's a whole other conversation about handcuffs. Do you guys chase handcuffs? Chuck, we'll start with you. What do you do?
I don't just chase handcuffs. I put them on a pedestal because I typically smash wide receiver and tight end and quarterback super early. So I look for guys that I don't just think are extremely valuable handcuffs, but I think will have standalone value. And if we're talking just to piggyback on the conversation we just had, I'd like a cool 150 to 175 attempts, maybe 500 to 600 yards and potentially 8 or 9 touchdowns for Tank Bigsby this year. And I fully expect that. That's not a hope. That's an expectation. And I think that in the age of the running back by committee, you could say that there's some hope of that expectation for at least 30% of the teams that are out there. So I think that as far as game theory goes, this isn't just a hopeful strategy. This is a proven strategy that a lot of the big dogs employ.
Yeah, I agree. Like you nailed it. That's what I do. Let's put it this way. A roster that I just finished a rookie draft in, my wide receivers are Justin Jefferson, AJ Brown. I took Zay Flowers. I think I have Brandon Ayuk. I'm loaded. And then I have Justin Fields and then Jalen Hurts at quarterback. My starting running backs are Zach Charbonnet and Tank Bigsby right now, and I'm like completely fine.
That's the dream.
Yeah,
that's the dream.
I'm 100%. And like the reason why my bench wide receivers are like Zay Flowers is a bench player for me. He doesn't have to produce year one for me. I have Jaden Reed. I have all these assets that I can trade for a running back. So and that's for, again, folks, this is a roster construction standpoint of just like the zero RB guys. So then I'll push it a step further. Justin, I'll serve it to you. Let's say you have, I try to make this trade in a draft now. I'm trying to trade for the 402. And I offered the CMC owner Elijah Mitchell. Is this a trade that you would accept? And is this a move that you would try to make on either side? Because I think that a handcuff is most valuable to the person who has the RB1. Let's say like Zamir White matters to me if I have a zero RB build, but it matters most to the guy who has Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, I love that leveraging. That's something I try to employ myself. 100%. I think that's a good trade. And, Elijah Mitchell has proven to not be worth more than 5 games anyways. So, and CMC has a long history of injuries. So I'm sure that guy looked at that trade and said, oh, hell yeah, except, I don't know if you want to know my point on handcuffs. I freaking love handcuffs, but I am in leagues with guys that are just like you that just like scoop up all the wide receivers. So I'm like left there because I always go the back end of the draft and I'm like, man, son of a bitch. So I always go instead of going and getting like the number 8 wide receiver, number 10 wide receiver, I start scrounging up running backs. But then I'll double down on that. I'll go 2 running backs, then 2 receivers, and then I'll start, picking up as many quality running backs as I can get. So one thing I did last year, I went hard on Khalil Herbert. This year, one guy that I think everybody should go hard on is actually Donta Foreman, because believe it or not, that guy goes for absolutely nothing. Currently the starter for the Bears. And guess what? They've kind of done a little revamp on the line, helping it out a little bit. They have a running quarterback. Worst case scenario for him is he becomes like an old beat down Ezekiel Elliott, runs it in 14 times for 14 touchdowns. And guess what? You just got yourself Jamal Williams.
Yeah, I was about to say that's my kind of running back, baby. That's a league winner for my roster builds. And I've been pretty high on Roschon Johnson, and I've kind of tempered off a little bit because of what you said. because like if you look at it at an analytical standpoint, I have a lot of Khalil Herbert. Khalil Herbert was like a starter for me because again, these are the
It's
guys that I
fantastic,
built my roster. Yeah. That like I think that Roschon Johnson is going to be less valuable for fantasy than people think because Deontay Foreman and Khalil Herbert were very good. Like they were very good runners. Deontay Foreman's problem is he was behind Derrick Henry, then he got injured. But he's been a very good runner. So they don't need Roschon to be any more than like a third down guy. What he kind of was for the Texans, because he's a good pass blocker, he's a smart player, and he's okay as a receiver. But like Khalil Herbert again, man, I thought he had more juice than David Montgomery.
Terrific. Significantly. Yeah. Significantly.
Yeah,
and the key with these guys and all of you guys, everything you guys are saying is on point. You do have to get these guys. This isn't, I'm going to look forward to him following to me in the next round. You have to, when you're at this point in the draft, do not hesitate to reach for these guys because we're talking about, there are only a handful of them that have the ceiling that we're hyping up right now. While there's a ton of them that will get the opportunity to, there are only a few of them that have that like, bam, home run. I'm going to be fucking texting people about this smash hit that I got. So please, I implore everybody to let Donovan Peoples-Jones fucking slide. All right. Don't worry about that.
He's unrosterable for like
You're
a lot
gonna
of
be
stuff.
okay.
Like, man,
You're going to be okay. Yeah.
Like I was telling people that Donovan Peoples-Jones had 2 routes to go in life. He was either going to become Gabe Davis or he was going to get replaced in the draft. And now, like 2 things that happened. They got Elijah Moore, and then they drafted Cedric Tillman. That tells you everything you need to know. What they think about
both
Donovan
things
Peoples-Jones.
happened actually somehow, which
Yeah.
is just
It's like,
somehow impossible.
yeah, I was like, both things happened. Like still, like I don't think Cedric Tillman is all that good. I really like Elijah Moore, but like at the end of the day, he's a guy that is gonna have like a couple of pop games, but isn't gonna be like a real winner. And like this kind of leads into my like you talk about the trade I said about the 402 for Elijah Mitchell. The guy said he didn't. I offered the 310, which is only like 3 picks higher, 4 picks higher, and he said no to that. And then I was like, okay, well, I'll take the 402. And he said no. And I don't know if he's thinking the same thing that I am, because this transition into the next thing is I wanted Dwayne McBride. I think Dwayne McBride is the back to own in Minnesota right now, because here's when we talk about handcuffs that I think people chase that don't have a lot of value, or they're just value where you're looking for them to hit and then you're trading for a future pick, which is an okay strategy. I just don't like to bank on that. It's like your Anthony Madison's. Right now, a lot of people are incredibly bullish on Anthony Madison, and I think at best he's going to be Dwayne McBride's backup. Is this the type of guy that you're chasing? Because right now, everyone thinks that everybody's going to be the next Tony Pollard. I'll start with you, Andrew.
Are you meaning to say Alexander Madison?
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Sorry,
want to make sure.
Yeah,
Want to make sure there wasn't a running back.
Let's just call him the Vikings guy. The Vikings guy.
Yeah.
It's not
Again, guys, you could tell players I do not believe it, because I'm like, what the fuck is this guy's name?
Look, I am not surprised that people are chasing Alexander Madison, because he has shown out when needed to, when Cook has gone down in the past. So I get it. I'm not exactly sure. I'm not confident in that team's full backfield right now. I think it's going to go through a changer. So like you said, I'm not confident that Madison's going to necessarily take that's next step. I think they might be quite comfortable with the role he's in as a really good backup that they can lean on. To make some points about the running back handcuffs, I do like running back handcuffs as well. But to your point, you mentioning trades and stash it, like really racking up a bunch of receivers that you can then trade, use as trade bait to then bring in some running backs later in the year as they develop, only works if you know you're in a league that is willing to trade. Because I've been in leagues where I employ that strategy and then find out nobody's willing to make a trade no matter how much you're willing to overpay. They just won't trade. So if you know you're in a league where people are just unwilling to trade, you got to be careful about the strategies you put out there or else you'll end up like I did where I'm getting receivers getting 15, 20 points on my bench while my running backs are scoring 4 or 5 points because I just can't play, 6 receivers.
Yeah.
Dude, you freaking nailed it. And you kind of like you kind of doused my fire because one group of guys, I can't make trades in that league. They're very conservative. They always give me the like it's my home league, to be honest. Like
it's my home league too.
Yeah,
it's
it's never a happy medium. I either see the most dumbass "are you high" moment trade ever, or they're just like, I'm gonna see what happens, and I'm like, what are you waiting on? Like it'd be like Julio Jones when he's with the Bucks. I want to see what happens, and I'm like, dude, we saw it like 6 years ago. It's done. Stuff like that. Like you're 100% right. Like sometimes
can we blame that on Leftwich?
Like, oh my God, I gotta quit talking about the Bucks because Chuck's gonna provide.
This is a new segment coming up called Bucks Corner.
Bucks Corner.
Yeah, no, you
But
get
to your point-
go.
I was gonna say, to your point, Andrew, was Alexander Madison actually good, or was like the offense really good?
So the
That's
offense
what I think.
the offense was really good, and he showed moments of popping in on the days where all eyes were on him. Specifically, the way I view Alexander Madison is he became popular in fantasy circles because of his 1 week value in DFS formats. Because it was very predictable the weeks that he would pop off and people would play him and they would win money, which then people make the mistake of then carrying that over into redraft or into Dynasty and these other forms where sometimes guys just pop off in certain weeks. It's just how it works. It has to be the perfect scenario.
I think he's like Jeff Wilson.
Best games.
What was that?
I had this debate with somebody like last year when they were trying to tell me go get Alexander Madison. I was like, his best games were two of them were against a rebuilding Detroit defense, and one of them was against Seattle when they weren't that good.
Yeah.
I was just like, I looked at him, I was just like, you realize that that's a sample size of three bad defenses. It's really 2 bad defenses, but 3 bad defensive games against a guy who was behind an established line, and Dalvin Cook would have probably had more success than him.
Yeah.
I mean, to his credit,
on that one.
He reminds me of, do you guys remember 2021 when Derrick Henry went down and the Titans were just running guys like Dontrell Hilliard, right?
Yeah.
These guys they come in fresh and they look amazing fresh because they're only used when they're fresh and they're career freshers. Alexander Madison is a fine player, but he's been around too long. He's a brand name. So he's going to be overdrafted. There's going to be over expectations. It's going to be like when Lamar Miller left Miami and went to the Texans, and it was like, oh, this is a fucking layup. This guy's going to get all the carries. He's going to be fantastic. It's going to be a pure volume play. No, that doesn't always work out. And I mean, I like him. Don't get me wrong. I think he has standalone value, but I don't think he's the most talented running back on the roster. I think you're right about McBride. I completely agree with that. But he's just not in that sweet spot. He's been around for too long that people are going to be like, oh, here's my Tony Pollard. Boom. And they're going to think that that's going to be the expectation. And they're going to get just absolutely, they're going to get a swirly. And I'm looking forward to watching from a distance and cheering on.
Yeah. Because the point is the real lesson of all this, folks, and like Chuck, thank you for the tee off there, is that you should stop assuming every player is an outlier. Like the key is that we see one player and then we chase that one player. And this is a whole segment that we've all talked about that we're gonna hit on a little bit later about chasing outliers on there. Like these are like, well, he could be the next Brock Purdy. I don't care about the next Brock Purdy because that's a bad bet. I don't care about the next Brock Purdy. I'm not trying to find that. That's not in my process. I'm not trying to find the next Tony Pollard because if you are a day 3 running back that has been a backup for a long time, your chances are not good. It's just like these are outlier players. And I'm sorry, Anthony, or again, I don't care about his name. Alexander Madison is not Tony Pollard. He's not Tony Pollard. So this goes to my next point. Rookie handcuffs. We talked about Tank Bixby. I brought up Dwayne McBride. These are the handcuffs I would rather have. And then we still get burned with the Zamir Whites. So this is where we need to talk about the analytics and draft capital. Like the rookie handcuffs you want are the ones that get day 2 draft capital, like Charbonnet, Tank Bigsby, it's Tajay Spear. Justin hit. I'll let you have this one because you hit the point of why you shouldn't have Tajay Spear. How many ACL surgeries has he had, and who is he behind?
I think the actual quote from the press conference was, "Do you have an ACL, sir?"
Yeah, and he said, "I'm healthy." I was like, "You didn't answer."
To which he responded,
Fucking balls on that guy.
Yeah, I'm healthy. I'm like, okay, like I'm healthy, but I'm also 30, and like I don't have an Achilles. So,
Yeah.
It's just like,
Yeah, it's safe to say I will not be getting Tajay Spear because, as I said last year, he is just fuel for Derrick Henry to go another 2 seasons. But one guy, wild card, that I'm getting a lot of in the 4th round is Evan Hall, who went to Indianapolis out of the 5th round. The prospect is not amazing, but it's the area that you land, right? He's landing right there. Who else is behind him? And he's got Jonathan Taylor right in front. Jonathan Taylor just had his first real major injury of his career. And guess what? If he goes down again, even for some minor time, that pick immediately becomes worth it because of the amount of times that they run the ball. That's the type of stuff you got to always take into consideration. That's why a lot of people missed on Elijah Mitchell. Why would you miss on the 49ers freaking draft pick? Because it's Tyrion Davis-Price? Yeah, I understand. But didn't you learn your lesson from Trey Sermon the year before? Kyle Shanahan doesn't know how to pick in the first 2 days. He always leaves his best picks for the 3rd day. But Philly's another one. You always try and pick up those Philly backs whenever they're on the board. I know you said you don't like Roschon Johnson. I like him as somebody who can maybe figure into the future. If maybe this year they figure, Khalil Herbert doesn't end up being anything, which I don't think will happen. I think he's going to be much better.
But do you get nervous about guys, about committee guys in teams that value the committee as opposed to guys who value next man up?
Yeah. I mean, it's always kind of hard with a committee because you always kind of feel like everybody's got their role. Whereas
it's
like next man up is literally
just
next man up. Like it could be like the Derrick Henry situation, like you were talking about before, where you find Donta Foreman, you find Dontrell Hilliard, and these guys just go on like a mini tear while Derrick Henry's out. Whereas opposed to the committee, like, let's take Philly, for instance. You always knew Kenneth Gainwell was never going to be the number 1. You always knew Jordan Howard was going to steal 2 touchdowns. Boston Scott was going to get 2 touchdowns versus the Giants, and Miles Sanders was going to get 1,000 yards. And this past year, he finally got his touchdowns. But the year before, everybody was like, 1,000 yards and 0 touchdowns? Is that going to happen again? Of course, it's not going to happen again, silly. But I do know what you're saying.
You silly ass.
I think what's important to look for in those situations that you're talking about, Chuck, is that in Evan Hall's situation where obviously Taylor is the bell cow there, but we know what Zach Moss is at this point. Yeah. He's a big disappointment. He may technically still be ahead of him on the depth chart right now as far as Ross goes, but we know that come week 6 maybe, or roster cuts even, but we know what Zach Moss is at this point. So that's a perfect situation where it's an easy step up for someone like Evan Hall if he does show any sign of being able to handle the NFL.
Nailed it.
Yep.
All right, we'll pay the bills one more time, and we'll finish off with one more little segment before we go.
Jazz, Sportsbook, Casino, and Racebook, the world's best resource for all-purpose online wagering. For over 20 years, Jazz has provided the best and quickest payouts in sports and entertainment wagers. Live sports betting, covering all the major sports leagues, and even into the new and exciting world of esports. Down the stretch you'll come, with Jazz's online horse wagering. Get paid when you play with Jazz's fun and exciting online casino games. Go online now and use the promo code TSS for our new members deals. Jazz Sportsbook, Casino, and Racebook, the world's best resource for online wagering.
I'm jazzed up after that Jazz Sportsbook. Let's go.
Yeah, we
Oh,
can
my
tell by your
goodness.
hat.
I know. I fucking love the hat.
Oh shit, the
All
hairline's
right,
not
we're
looking so good
talking-
tonight, guys.
You look like you're ready to smoke a cigarette
Oh,
in a casino.
extra
I'm always
long
ready.
one.
I'm always ready. That's my problem.
He looks like he works in a jazz casino. Like they play jazz and they play like backgammon, like games that you're too like trashy to play. Like that.
Like
that's
if I
what they
walked up
play
to you and I was like, "Hi, I'm Jazz Casino," you'd be like, "Yeah, that makes sense. Like I'm the physical embodiment of the entire enterprise."
Unsolved mysteries, folks. Drake London versus Traylon Burks.
This is really a
Is there even a setup to that? Because I just want to know. I just want to know. I would like you guys to explain it to me. Explain it to me why Drake London, unless it's how you feel about them as prospects, explain it to me how these guys are in any different situation from one another, please, for the love of God.
I'll take
Yeah.
this one.
yeah. You wrote it.
Drake. Yeah, I was like, Drake London's target rate is just much higher. Like you talk about earning targets, we just have such a large sample size that says that he is poised for a second-year breakout than Traylon Burks has. And I'm a homer. I'm an Arkansas fan. I love Traylon Burks, but when it comes to projectable, and I mean like more than just
Is
anecdotal.
the data reliable though when you consider what both of them went through last year when it comes to quarterback changes, injuries on other players on the offenses? I mean, how much stock can we put in what we've seen so far?
I think Marcus Mariota was arguably worse than Josh Dobbs. Even let's say if the Titans had let's say if Josh Dobbs had an entire season, like that's my whole point. Is like even with if you talk about low passing volume, low passing volume and being with mediocre quarterbacks, that is the second point is wrong. Mediocre. Only one of them had a mediocre quarterback, which would be Ryan Tannehill, and then the subsequent garbage afterwards. The Falcons didn't have one. Market like if you look at even Kyle Pitts' stats, the on target rate was so abysmally low. And like you want to talk about off the charts and the regression and the positive regression that we could see, that it just projects way higher. Secondly, when you think about athletic profile and just from a college profile, Drake London has the better one. So when we take that stock into that, it's hard for me not to have
how much better?
London significant, a lot,
lot better.
Traylon Burks ran like a 4.7. He ran like a 4.7, and then at Arkansas, they didn't run a very Okay, I'll let you have that one because I'm buying into that narrative.
4.55. So that's not bad.
Okay.
At all.
It's not that bad. It's really not that bad. All right, but
here's the main
I'll
thing
let
to
you guys-
consider. Here's the main thing to
Jagger,
consider.
you know what Drake London ran?
huh?
A 4.58. Oh shit!
Here's the.
Let's
Here's
look
the.
Let's
Here's the. I was
let's look.
Pro
Let's go look
day
at the Raz.
Jamie
Fucking
in the
pro day
Look at the Raz.
Oh,
Drake
Jay,
London
good.
Raz.
Oh.
His relative athletic score.
Let's while you're doing that, let me ask you guys this. Let me ask you this contextually, right? Let's assume for just 1 second that these receivers are same tier, right? Just bear with me, all right? Who is in the better situation?
Drake
It's
London.
clear. It's clear. London,
London.
because here's why. Because you brought up how last year's stats, can we really compare them given the situations? And I think we can at this point because we know Tennessee's situation didn't change. They're still going to roll out Tannehill and whoever might come up behind him when he ultimately fails or gets hurt or whatever. The receivers behind him are the same, pretty much. The running backs are the same. Like that's Tennessee Titans are going to be the same as last year. Atlanta, arguably between Desmond Ridder and I'm going to say even Taylor Heineke, whichever one of them plays, I think would still be better than Ryan Tannehill at this point in that Tennessee offense. So the Atlanta situation between that, Bijan Robinson, and like everything that they got going on over there that everyone was so high on about last week, the situation only got better in Atlanta. So Drake London over Traylon Burks all day for me.
Showing up late for these pre-meetings is because all you guys do is smoke crack and then you start recording this pod. How can you possibly say there is absolutely nobody on that Tennessee team that is even worth rostering other than Derrick Henry? Traylon Burks is in the situation where Tannehill
That's kind of my point.
He was a complete he was an A+ deliverer of the football for AJ Brown. They traded AJ Brown. They bring in Burks because they want to feed. The offense does heavily feature a wide receiver one who's capable of getting open, who's capable of making
Burks couldn't do it. And Tannehill can't do it either anymore. That's my point.
He did do it. What do you mean he can't do it? He did do it. And he did it with Malik Willis. And they're bringing in Ryan Tannehill, who can sustain, and they drafted a quarterback that we think potentially could, hopefully, I could be eating shit in my mouth in a year, but no one's ever said that.
Tasty. Want some corn with
I'm just saying, Drake London had a brief window with a good quarterback in Desmond Ridder, who I actually do have a lot of faith in, but he's got Kyle Pitts on the offense. They just drafted the best player on the team. I just don't know. And especially as Derrick Henry approaches that cliff, which is as far away as I hope it is. I don't know. I think that long-term, I'd rather have Burks.
This is fun. Last week I shit on the Falcons and Chuck is go Falcons go. This week I praise the Falcons. He goes go Titans go.
That was the Jello shots last week.
I'm just like, oh my, Chuck. I've never. I don't know what's happened to me because I'm rarely a homer guy. But when it comes to my Arkansas, when it comes to my piggies, man, I'm irrational. But like, it's just Drake London is just he's so much better analytically. Like I just like again, we just think about all those targets there. And like I think Andrew hit it perfectly, is that the Atlanta just got significantly better. All right, Justin, I need you to clear this up because we've hit our hour mark. And we got to come back to this because I feel like there's no resolution. But before we go, I need to hear your opinion so we can. Are we 50-50 here, or is Chuck just wrong? Like we all.
First off, I need to ask you a question since you're such an Arkansas guy. Do you have somewhere the Peyton Hillis Madden?
Do I have it?
Yeah.
No, because it is a great Madden, and that was my favorite year. And like
I was hoping you were gonna say yes. Like,
do you hope I was gonna
pull? You were gonna say it's like framed on a wall somewhere.
I could talk about that backfield for like years. And we had Peyton Hillis, Darren McFadden, and Felix Jones in one backfield. It's one of the greatest of all time. But again, yeah. But again. Please stick to the point. Are you team Drake London? Are you team Traylon Burks? Is Chuck wrong?
All right, boys.
And why is it yes?
Chuck is always wrong.
Chuck's about to go get more Jello shots.
That was the outro right there, Andrew. If you didn't know, Chuck is always wrong. Boom. Get out of here. No, Drake London all the way. Both guys have very much trouble. Oh my God, what?
Bringing him back up. Bringing him back up for this bullshit. Always wrong, my ass. You tell him. You tell him he's always wrong.
For all you podcast listeners,
what's the dog's name?
Groot,
your daddy's always wrong.
Your
all right,
dad
you were saying
wrong person.
You were in the middle of saying why I was right.
Again, for listeners at home, he brought a dog, which is just cheating. Like I have two right here. I have a cat, and you know what? I'll just play that game. My cat says you're wrong as hell, Chuck, and you know what? Roll the credits, Andrew.
Is Justin giving us his point or no?
Yeah. I'm all Drake London. I hated Traylon Burks as a prospect. I thought he was a glorified Deebo Samuel.
You hated him.
And he proved it because he was injured a lot, and he's surprisingly not as quick as his 40 time says. And he's terrible with separation. Like, come on, dude. How are you a first-round pick? How are you supposed to replace A.J. Brown with that guy. Tell me that, Chuck. Tell me that.
Next,
Exactly. Roll the clip.
Close this out.
Oh, I thought you would have.
Well, yeah, I'm about to say we'll let Chuck babble later on there, but we got to come back to this. But before we go, make sure to like, subscribe, and again, we're on Spotify and Apple and all the stuff. Probably, I need to make sure. Make sure to leave us a review, give us 5 stars. Give us a listen. And then another reason why you want to keep track, we have a huge underdog draft coming. We'll have some guests coming. We'll keep you up to date on that. And then we have some other things going. We're going to have our first our first show, Dynasty League, where we're going to have a startup and more content coming for you. Again, I'm Jagger at Fantasy Blue Chip. There's Justin Herrera and Chuck Bass and Andrew Leduc. We'll see you next week, folks.